This is Max and Mia podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Max and Mia podcast. I'm Max.
And I'm Mia. How's everyone doing today? Max, I have to ask, did you actually make it to the gym this morning like you planned?
Busted. Okay, I may have hit the snooze button 3 times and ended up having cereal for breakfast instead of that protein smoothie I was bragging about yesterday.
I knew it. You know what, though? Speaking of the gym, I had the most awkward encounter there yesterday. There was this guy clearly trying to start a conversation with me, but he just stood there for like 5 minutes pretending to adjust the same machine over and over again.
Oh no, the classic gym hover move. Did he ever actually say anything?
Eventually, he just said, "Nice weather today, huh?" While we were inside a windowless gym. I felt so bad for him, but I also didn't know how to respond without making it more awkward.
That's actually perfect timing because today we're diving into something super practical that I know many of our listeners struggle with: meeting new people in English.
Exactly. And we're not talking about those boring textbook phrases like, "What's your name?" or "Where are you from?" Though those have their place. We want to give you conversation starters that actually work, that feel natural, and that help you make genuine connections.
Whether you're at the gym, in a coffee shop, at work, or in a class, we've got you covered. We'll share some fresh approaches, give you real conversations to learn from, and most importantly,
we'll help you avoid those awkward moments, like what happened to my friend at the gym yesterday. He probably practiced that line in the mirror, but it didn't go as planned.
Okay, so here's what we have planned for today's episode. We're going to start with some essential vocabulary, then share some unique conversation starters that go beyond the basics.
Then we'll listen to 2 real-life scenarios, one at a gym and another in an English class, and break down what works, what doesn't, and how to sound confident without being too forward or too shy.
Trust me, by the end of this episode, you'll never have to resort to talking about the weather in a windowless room again.
All right, everyone, let's jump right in and transform you into conversation pros. Ready, Max?
Let's do this. First up, essential vocabulary for making connections.
All right. Let's start with some keywords that'll help you sound more natural and confident. Max, kick us off.
Perfect. First word, vibe. This means the feeling or atmosphere you get from a person or place.
Great choice. So instead of saying, "This place is nice," you could say, "I really like the vibe here. Everyone seems so focused but relaxed."
Exactly. And here's mine. This gym has such a positive vibe, much better than my old one where everyone was super competitive.
Love it. Okay, my turn. Genuine. It means real, authentic, or sincere.
Ooh, that's a good one. Example, you seem really genuine. I appreciate that you're not trying to impress anyone, just being yourself.
Yes. And mine. I love having genuine conversations instead of just small talk about the weather.
Next up, intriguing. It means interesting in a mysterious or fascinating way.
Ooh, fancy. So like, "That book you're reading looks intriguing. I've never heard of that author before."
Perfect. Here's mine. Your workout routine is intriguing. I've never seen someone combine yoga with weight training like that.
Okay. The next word is refreshing. Something that feels new, different, or pleasantly surprising.
Example, it's refreshing to meet someone who actually listens instead of just waiting for their turn to talk.
Exactly. And your perspective on that topic is really refreshing. I hadn't thought about it that way.
Last one from me, approachable. Someone who seems friendly and easy to talk to.
Great word. You seem really approachable. Not everyone here looks like they want to chat, but you have this friendly energy.
And mine, the instructor seems approachable. not intimidating like some fitness coaches can be.
Perfect. Those words will definitely help you sound more natural and thoughtful when meeting new people. Now, let's move on to some conversation starters that actually work.
All right, forget about asking, "What's your name?" or "How's your day?" Let's try some conversation starters that actually make people want to talk.
Exactly. Here are our top conversation openers that feel natural and create genuine connections.
Number 1, try saying something like, "You're really good at that. How do you do it?" Use this when you notice someone doing something well. For example, "You're always so consistent with your workouts. How do you manage that?"
Love that. Number 2, you look like you know what you're doing. This is great when someone seems experienced. For example, you look like you know what you're doing with that equipment. Do you have any tips for someone just starting out?
Here's a good one. "I'm curious about your approach to..." It's a great way to show genuine interest. For example, "I'm curious about your approach to meal prep. You always seem so organized with your meals."
Number 4, you seem like the type of person who... This helps create an instant connection by showing you notice something about them. For example, you seem like the type of person who always has great book recommendations. Got any favorites right now?
And my favorite? "I bet you have an interesting story about..." People love talking about themselves, and this invites them to share. For example, "I bet you have an interesting story about how you got into fitness. What got you started?"
Number 6, you give off really positive energy. It's a direct compliment, but still feels natural. For example, you give off really positive energy. It's refreshing to see someone actually enjoying their workout.
Last one. "I'm impressed by..." It's a simple way to show appreciation without sounding too intense. For example, "I'm impressed by your dedication. I see you here every morning putting in the work."
These work because they're specific, positive, and invite conversation instead of just yes/no answers. Now, let's hear how these play out in real life.
All right, everyone. Here's our first scenario. We have Jake, who's been going to this gym for a few months, and Sophia, who just joined last week. Let's listen.
Remember to pay attention to how they use natural conversation starters and build rapport.
"Excuse me, I don't mean to interrupt, but you're really good at that. How do you do it with those resistance bands? I've been trying to figure them out for weeks."
Oh, thanks. I actually just learned this routine from a YouTube channel. Are you looking to add them to your workout?
Yeah, definitely. My trainer moved away last month, so I'm kind of winging it now. I have to ask, what's your secret to making it look so effortless?
Trust me, it's not effortless. I've been doing Pilates for years, so the movements feel familiar. But these bands are way trickier than they look.
Pilates, that explains it. You seem like the type of person who's tried all different kinds of workouts, am I right?
Actually, yes. How did you guess? I get bored easily, so I'm always switching things up. What about you? What's your usual routine?
I'm more of a weights guy, but honestly, I'm curious about your approach to mixing things up. I've been doing the same routine for months, and I'm getting nowhere.
Oh, I totally get that. I bet you have an interesting story about how you got started with weights, though.
Not that interesting, but my college roommate basically dragged me here. Said I needed to get out of my computer science bubble. You give off really positive energy, though. Way more motivating than his tough love approach.
That's so sweet. I love that your friend cared enough to push you out of your comfort zone. Computer science, huh? That's impressive. I'm terrible with anything tech-related.
It's not as exciting as it sounds, trust me. But hey, if you ever need help with apps or anything, I'm your guy. Speaking of which, what's that app you're using to track your workout?
Oh, this? It's called Fit Notes. Super simple, nothing fancy. I'm impressed by how organized you are with your routine, though. I saw you writing everything down in that notebook.
Yeah, I'm kind of old school that way. Digital stuff all day at work, so I like keeping my workouts analog.
That's actually refreshing. Most people are glued to their phones here. I might steal that idea.
Feel free. Hey, I don't want to keep you from your workout, but would you maybe want to grab a protein shake after? I'd love to hear more about those YouTube channels you mentioned.
That sounds great. I was going to head to that smoothie place across the street anyway. Give me about 15 more minutes.
Perfect, I'll finish up too. Thanks for the band tips, by the way.
No problem. See you in a bit, Jake.
See you soon, Sophia.
Wow, that was a great example of how to naturally connect with someone. Mia, what stood out to you about Jake's approach?
First thing I noticed, he didn't just jump in with a generic compliment. He started with, "You're really good at that," which immediately gave Sophia a chance to share her knowledge. That's so much better than "nice workout."
Exactly. And notice how he followed up with, "I have to ask, what's your secret?" This wasn't just small talk. He was genuinely curious and gave her a reason to keep talking.
I loved how Sophia responded too. She didn't just say thanks and walk away. She engaged by asking if he wanted to add resistance bands to his routine. That's key. Good conversations are ping pong, not tennis serving.
Great point. And Jake did something really smart. He shared a personal detail about his trainer moving away. This made him vulnerable and relatable, not just some random guy asking questions.
Yes. Vulnerability builds trust. And when he said, "You seem like the type of person who's tried different workouts," he was making an educated guess based on what he observed. That's much more engaging than asking, "What other workouts do you do?"
The flow was so natural too. Notice how they moved from fitness to personal backgrounds to technology and back to fitness. They weren't forcing topics. They were following the conversation wherever it led.
And Jake's timing was perfect. He didn't overstay his welcome. When he suggested the protein shake, he gave her an out by saying, "I don't want to keep you from your workout." That shows respect for her time.
Absolutely. Sophia felt comfortable saying yes because there was no pressure. She was already planning to go to the smoothie place anyway, so it felt natural.
Okay, let's talk about finding that perfect balance. Jake managed to be confident without being pushy and interested without being desperate. How do you strike that balance?
First tip, ask permission to interrupt. Jake started with, "I don't mean to interrupt, but..." This shows respect and gives the other person control.
Second, use I statements instead of you statements. Instead of, "You're really good at this," try, "I'm impressed by your technique." It feels less like judgment and more like genuine observation.
Third, share something about yourself for every question you ask. Jake didn't just interrogate Sophia. He revealed things about his trainer, his work, his routine. This creates reciprocal sharing.
Fourth, give genuine compliments on actions, not just appearance. Instead of, "You look great," try, "You give off really positive energy," or "I'm impressed by your dedication."
And here's a big one. Read the room. If someone has headphones in, seems focused, or gives short answers, respect that. Not everyone wants to chat, and that's okay.
Exactly. And for our shy listeners, start small. You don't need to have a 10-minute conversation right away. Sometimes just "nice form" or "that exercise looks challenging" is enough to test the waters. All right, let's quickly cover what not to do when meeting someone new.
First, don't interrupt their workout mid-rep. Wait for natural breaks between exercises.
Avoid personal questions too early. Don't ask about relationships, age, or money in the first conversation.
Don't monopolize the conversation. If you're doing all the talking, you're doing it wrong.
Skip the complaints. Don't start with, "This gym is so crowded," or "I hate Mondays."
And finally, don't take rejection personally. If someone's not interested in chatting, smile and move on gracefully.
Perfect. Now let's set up our second scenario.
But before we jump into our English class scenario, let's learn some vocabulary that's perfect for academic or learning environments.
Here's my first word. Intimidating. Something that makes you feel nervous or scared.
Like, this grammar lesson looks intimidating, but I bet it's easier than it appears.
And mine. I find speaking in front of the class intimidating, but everyone here seems so supportive.
Next up, overwhelming. When there's too much information or too many things happening at once.
Good one. Like, all these new vocabulary words are a bit overwhelming. How do you keep track of everything?
Exactly. Here an example. The homework assignments seemed overwhelming at first, but breaking them down really helps.
Next one. Insightful. When someone shares something thoughtful or gives you a new perspective.
Nice. Here's an example. That was such an insightful comment about cultural differences. I never thought about it that way.
Here's another example. Your question was really insightful. It made me rethink my own assumptions.
Last one, relatable. Something you can connect with or understand from your own experience.
For example, your story about mixing up phrasal verbs is so relatable. I do that all the time.
And another one, I find your struggles with pronunciation really relatable. We're all learning together.
These words will help you sound more natural in academic conversations. Now, let's hear how Emma and Carlos meet in their English class.
All right, here's our second scenario. Emma is from Germany and has been in this intermediate French class for 2 weeks. Carlos just joined today. He's from Mexico. Let's see how they connect.
Pay attention to how they use the classroom environment to start their conversation naturally.
Excuse me, I'm curious about your approach to taking notes. Do you write everything down or just the key points?
Oh, hi. Honestly, I'm still figuring that out. This is actually my first day. I'm Carlos, by the way.
Nice to meet you, Carlos. I'm Emma. First day? That grammar lesson we just had must have been pretty overwhelming then.
You're not wrong. I bet you have an interesting story about your first day, too. Was it as intimidating as I'm feeling right now?
Totally. I remember thinking everyone else was so much better than me. You seem like the type of person who picks things up quickly, though.
That's really kind of you to say. I have to ask, what's your secret to remembering all these verbs? I saw you answering them so confidently.
Oh, I definitely struggle with them too. I make flashcards, but honestly, your pronunciation is so clear. My German accent makes everything sound so mechanical.
Are you kidding? Your pronunciation is great. It's refreshing to hear someone speak so precisely. I'm impressed by how you structure your sentences. Much better than my broken French.
That's so relatable. I always worry about making mistakes. But listening to you speak, you have this natural flow that I envy.
You give off really confident energy when you participate. I was too nervous to even introduce myself properly to the class.
Can I tell you a secret? I was terrified for the first week, but everyone here is so supportive. That comment you made about cultural differences was really insightful, by the way.
Thank you. I wasn't sure if it made sense. I'm curious about your background. Are you studying here or just taking the class for fun?
I'm doing my master's degree, so I need better academic English. What about you? You seem like you have experience with languages.
Actually, I just moved here for work. My company suggested this class. It's intimidating being the new guy, but you've made me feel much more welcome.
That's so sweet. I remember feeling exactly the same way. Hey, a few of us usually grab coffee after class to practice conversation. Would you like to join us today?
That sounds amazing. I was actually hoping to find a study group or something. I'd love to join.
Perfect. There's this little cafe around the corner that's perfect for chatting. Plus, Maria and Jin from our class are really funny. You'll like them.
This is exactly what I needed. Thank you for being so welcoming, Emma.
Of course, we're all in this together, right?
Absolutely. See you after class then.
Can't wait.
What a beautiful example of connection through shared vulnerability. Emma and Carlos both admitted their insecurities, which created instant bonding.
Exactly. Notice how Emma started with a practical question about note-taking. She used the classroom environment naturally. No forced small talk about weather or weekend plans.
And when Carlos revealed it was his first day, Emma immediately empathized instead of making him feel worse. That phrase, "that must have been overwhelming," shows understanding, not judgment.
I loved how they complemented each other's strengths. Carlos praised Emma's pronunciation. She complimented his natural flow. They built each other up instead of competing.
The timing was perfect, too. They whispered during appropriate moments, spoke during breaks, and didn't disrupt the lesson. Respect for the environment is crucial.
And that invitation to the coffee group? Emma made it inclusive by mentioning other classmates. Carlos didn't feel like he was being singled out. He was being welcomed into a community.
For our listeners, remember, the best conversations happen when you focus on the other person, not on impressing them.
Use your environment, whether it's gym equipment, classroom materials, or what's happening around you. Let the setting guide your conversation starters.
Be genuinely curious. People can tell when you're asking questions just to fill silence versus when you actually want to know their answer.
And most importantly, practice. These conversations might feel awkward at first, but the more you try, the more natural they become.
That's a wrap on today's episode. We hope these strategies help you make genuine connections in English.
Remember to subscribe, leave us a review, and let us know in the comments where you've successfully used these conversation starters.
Until next time, keep practicing and keep connecting.
See you soon!